I feel strongly that prevention must be integrated within this program, that I would support reform because we need it. The nature of reform involves all kinds of resistance. And also, it's not just healthcare reform. It goes beyond that. As I mentioned, it involves peace in the Middle East. We're spending so much money on foreign wars that our money's being taken away there. So therefore, I plead with you that we use this interim period and not waste it, to just wait for the regular candidate to come in. It's time to really move forward. You see how long it takes to bring about these changes with healthcare reform, peace in the Middle East, the Hawaiian issue, education and health, the economy. It can be done right now. So I ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Amsterdam. I'm using the name that appears at the state elections list, so I apologize. I don't know what you call yourself. I don't know the state office calls.
Oh, okay. On the ballot, it's initial C, HI-01 Amsterdam.
It's Charles Amsterdam.
We gotta change that.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Any optional rebuttals? So you're very nice and very cordial to each other. The next question. The national debate is $12.5 trillion and increasing. Last year, the Treasury Department spent $383 billion just for interest payments. If elected to Congress, what will you do to address the national debt? Will you propose starting to pay it off? We start with Pauline Hanabusa.
The question on paying off the national debt is not a simple one, simply because if we didn't have a shortfall in terms of the money that the United States collects, it wouldn't have, of course, a national debt. No one wants to borrow money. Having said that, however, I believe that we must all be fiscally responsible, and we must begin to address that debt burden of the United States. Because we cannot be the great nation that we are if our debt is owned primarily by foreign countries, in particular China. And China does own the bulk of our debt. The question is going to be, how do you begin to pay that debt off? You cannot, in these difficult economic times, I believe, propose to then increase taxes to then just compound the problems that our people are going to face. Therefore, yes, I'm more than willing to say that we must begin to address the national debt, and we must see how we're going to pay it off. One way that we may have to start off is to look at the concept of deficit neutrality on bills that are being passed. Because absent deficit neutrality, we are just going to compound our problem. Having said that, however, we must also recognize that in order to get us out of this difficult economic times, we must work to stimulate the economic growth of this nation. We must begin to look at exactly what will promote the growth that America deserves and has for so long been the leader in. And I believe that we must work together on developing economic growth and also containing the deficit that we have incurred today.
Thank you. Charles Amsterdam.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm interested in our state debt. How can we resolve, how can we control, how can we get out of our debt? That's what I'm interested in. What was just said in regards to our national debt, I agree with. We should develop our economy, new ways of doing things, but also as a representative in Washington, to not allow these economic problems to advance here in Hawaii. 2 airlines went out of business. The cruise ships stopped. The plantations have closed down. The dairies have closed down. Where are our representatives? How come we didn't stop it? How come towards the end, when Aloha Airlines was going out of business, we had some help there? Why didn't it happen at the start? So I propose to help with the debt, but I'm interested in the interim period. Not to make a career out of this. I'll leave it to our career politicians. Our career politicians can get in there and fight it out and work on these long-range problems in the future. As I mentioned, I'm willing to deal with these problems, but I think we should focus on how we can resolve and meet our economic growth and advancement here in Hawaii. We should do that more. And so I ask your support in the interim period, that we might be able to advance economically, that we might advance with peace in Israel, the Middle East, the Hawaiian issue, healthcare, seniors, and education. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Charles, did you?
Our national debt and the spending the federal government is currently engaged in is probably the biggest long-term problem our nation is facing. In the last year, we have increased the national debt from $8 trillion to $12 trillion. Just earlier this year, the United States Congress also raised the debt ceiling from $12 trillion to $14 trillion. The reason is because we are financing it with a budget deficit asked for this coming year of $1.6 trillion. Now, I know for most of your listeners here, when we talk about $12 trillion or $14 trillion national debt, we talk about $1.6 trillion budget deficit, I know for most of your listeners, that's a number followed by a lot of zeros. So let me put this in very personal terms. What this means is that the debt right now is approximately $39,000 per person. $39,000 per person. If we pass the budget as asked for by the President with a $1.6 trillion budget deficit, that is asking to increase the national debt per person by an additional $7,000. That's $46,000 per person. Put in another perspective, for the average family of 4 in the United States, that's $170,000. And I ask, does the average person, the average family out there, do you have $170,000 sitting around in your bank account? And if you did, would you spend that money in the same fashion that the United States Congress is currently spending? We need to exercise much more fiscal restraint. We cannot continue down this path of monster-sized budget deficits, multi-trillion-dollar budget deficits as far as the eye can see. What we need to do is we need real earmark reform in the Congress, we need to pass a balanced budget amendment, and we need to look at real reforms in our budgeting process to get control of this. Because we cannot continue to run out the credit card bill and pass it on to our children.
Thank you. Philman Lee.
Thank you. Getting hold of the budget deficit, the national debt and budget deficit, we need to, first of all, we have to spend a little bit of money as an investment in our future. We have to develop, spend money in education and developing businesses and economic development and with incentives to produce value-added and high-tech industries that pay more rather than just mediocre service jobs, or low-paying jobs. America is a great country. We have many resources out there. We have a very diverse and great country that we have from immigrants from all over the world. We need to educate them. We need to increase our workforce training to have a workforce that is highly skilled to meet the needs of today's high-tech industry. Hawaii is a good example that really needs high-tech because we're out here in the Pacific. It's not conducive to transportation or manufacturing. We have to rely on services such as increasing high-tech industry, telecommunications, internet technology, and those type of things that add value by retraining and restructuring our workforce and also providing more job security and job creation and supporting small businesses, which is the backbone of our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ed, please.
First of all, I agree with Charles. This is not just probably, but it is our biggest long-term challenge. The deficit and the debt have gotten completely out of control. A couple of things we need to do immediately. The first thing we need to do is to start telling the truth to the American people about exactly what's going on and why. In my prior service in Congress, I served on the House Budget Committee. I realized how bad the problem was. During that period, when I started in Congress in 2002, our national debt, the total amount that we owed was about $6 trillion. By the time that there was a turnover in Congress or in the administration from President Bush to President Obama, it was about $10 trillion plus, and currently it's about $12.6 trillion. So Charles, it hasn't gone up by $4 trillion over the last year. It's gone up significantly, but this was a mix of